Good news, everyone!
It's Jake Ciely.
And surprise in your cereal box. I'm great! Everybody else sucks! Let's get dangerous.
Yes, sir, random kid I just met.
It's time to check the list.
Oh, wait, you're serious? Let me laugh even harder.
You know what? You just made the list!
Hooray! People are paying attention to me.
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No, burn.
What is up, you ducks? It is week 5 of the NFL season. Week 5 fantasy football preview on All in Football with Chris Meaney and myself, as always. If you are watching the baseball playoffs, do you like my Gundam baseball t-shirt, baseball card, Meaney?
I do. That's pretty slick. Yeah. Awesome.
I wasn't sure if you knew Gundam. I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't know.
I do.
We're kind of like, we're
do.
taking the nerd level up further and further.
A touch. Yeah, a touch. You see Fox laughing in the background there in the green room. Man, you know what, the baseball playoffs, like, it's the longest regular season ever, and these guys got to rush the playoffs. There shouldn't be a best of 3 in any sport in the playoffs.
Day after day after day. Like 3 in a row, too. Well, I mean, at least they're not changing locations.
I guess, but like it's so silly, man. The regular season is drawn out so long, 162 games, and then it's just like, let's just get these playoffs over as quick as we can. Next round it'll be 3 to 5.
To be fair, they're going to be playing all the way up to like November almost at this point if it goes the full way. And it doesn't.
Fine.
And the season, it doesn't have to be the basketball playoffs. The basketball playoffs like start in January and don't finish till next year. Like, I mean,
yeah.
Same.
Hockey's like that too. Like, but
hockey's not as bad.
2 to 3 is just too. It's too quick, man.
You know what they say? Win your division. There you go.
You're not wrong. Win your division, and I guess that's part of it, right? If you really do get a big benefit to win your division,
being a top 2 record. I think this is like I like it a lot. That's the part I do like. I get what you're saying. Maybe like one rest day mixed in there, but hey, the Marlins almost got screwed with that rain delay. They almost had to play Monday too. But anyway, we're not talking baseball.
Here we are.
We're talking ranks for week 5. A lot to talk about. We're going to go through some interesting situations that we don't know of as today because this is 10 a.m. on Wednesday. And as soon as we're done with the show, we might get the Jaleel McLaughlin, Javonte Williams news. But all that being said, I saw that in waivers. McLaughlin went for a lot in all 4 flex leagues. I was surprised because I guess let's just start with him. Because there's a chance Javonte Williams plays this week. Like they even said the hip, it's just a hip. Yeah, they even called it a stinger. And they just called it like a contusion and that he might be okay. Worst case, it sounds like he misses 1 week. And I know he was getting sprinkled in more than Samaje Perine, but there's a lot of factors here of like we can play, like let's dissect it from 3 different levels. Javonte Williams plays. Is it 100%? Do we see more McLaughlin? And McLaughlin's a fine flex play. Williams is out. McLaughlin is the lead? Question mark. You would think, given what the usage has been and his explosiveness, that he would be. But Samaje Perine was used a lot in the passing game after Williams left the game last week. So is it a 50-50 split? And then even going forward, like I just felt like I threw $7 in my home league. Like I just didn't feel like this was one of the ones where I was like, you know what? If I miss, it's fine because what's the best case scenario? I have an RB2 basically.
Yeah. I agree. I feel like it's kind of a trap, but where in Flex League I had Javonte, so I was a little bit aggressive. I think I spent $16 on him, and I had a bunch of money. Like I hadn't really spent. Yeah, I mean Javonte's my guy, and it was looking okay at the start against those leaky Bears, and then all of a sudden he got hurt. He had like 3 or 4 touches in the first couple drives, but yeah, I've seen him, man, across a lot of leagues, 50 some odd dollars, 48, 42. You tweeted it out earlier, right? Flex_leagues, follow that. You get, I love that you tweet that out. Just go to show like all the different bids. And because I seen like mine is 16, piece of P, I think is 17. And then there's like Fabs here, $48. So I guess like some people are obviously hard up, but with me, I had the money.
So
I also
he went
have
for
Javonte.
Yeah. 16, 18, 21, and 48. So.
48. And in one of my leagues, 54. And in another one of my leagues, somebody dropped Samaje Perine for him. And I think that's a mistake as well.
Would you rank McLaughlin over Perine if there is no Javonte Williams?
I would, just based on on last week and how he looks. You know, he had a
well. So here's the comparison I made.
But I think it's 60-40, Jake. It's not like a lock that this.
Oh, I think it's 55-45. I think it's the Ravens. I think it's Justice Hill and Gus Edwards. Healthy Justice Hill. Like Justice Hill wasn't 100% last week. Yeah, which would make you say, okay, more upside, more explosiveness with Justice Hill. That would be McLaughlin. But the weird part about that, the difference is, and why I say 55-45, is because Gus Edwards clearly isn't involved in the passing game almost at all. And again, it's the Ravens, so two different animals somewhat. But still at the same time, I go back to Pirine being on the field for a lot of the passing downs after Williams left the game. This pass blocking is probably a big part of that. So I don't know if it's definitively, the pass catching upside, all the explosive plays versus the grinded out type. I think Pirine has enough of that at 55-45. It was Pirine when it shocked me. So right now, Javonte Williams, if he does play, I still have him outside RB2 level just because of the risk. I have him even behind Breece Hall, who we'll talk about. And that puts McLaughlin at like 32 and Pirine down in the 40s. If Williams was out, I think I would just put McLaughlin right there at 26, and I move Pirine up to about 30. Where's Tyler Algier, who has, by the way, fallen off completely, but this is a really good matchup where you can see him getting a 10-carry type of game.
Yeah, they still use him. I really like the usage in the 70% for Bijan over the past couple weeks. And Algier's still kind of getting sprinkled in a touch. But yeah, like you said, it's a really good matchup against the Texans. I think I'm looking at your rankings. I think they're fair. Javonte, I don't know. Do you even view him as a buy low candidate at this point? It's been really
slow. Last week. That was bad timing for that.
Unfortunately, with the injury, it did seem like he was going to have an okay game. Like I said, he had a couple catches right off the hop. And I saw McLaughlin in there. I was like, what is going on? Man, he looks good. That's not Javonte. And then I didn't see the injury that he left with the hip injury, and I saw it later on. It doesn't seem significant. So he may suit up, but it may just be a backfield where you don't want to play anybody this week against the Jets. If they're all active, what are you really doing? Who would you lean? Javonte. But
borderline startable. If there is no Javonte, I think I would play McLaughlin a little bit higher. Maybe in front of Herbert. Let's talk about Herbert real quick. By the way, my eyes got wide because I saw the breaking news, by the way. J.C. Jackson traded to the Patriots to replace Christian Gonzalez, which downgrade, I think, even though rookie. But this is like
back in New England.
Yeah, I wish they didn't sign. I'm sure the Chargers are happy to get rid of that deal. Like that seemed like one of the biggest mistakes this offseason. And now
is Gonzalez lost for the year?
They expect him to be torn labrum and dislocated shoulder, surgery soon. So sounds like he's going to be
such a good player. Yeah, even though he's just a rookie, I was really impressed with him. Anyways,
better than Jackson. But hey, there you go. Maybe Jackson fits better with the Patriots style of defense. But so I want to go to this. Khalil Herbert is clearly last week feels like if they have the lead, it's going to be a lot of Khalil Herbert. This is a Gus Edwards, Justice Hill situation. This is a lot of these backfields where we see this type of split, whereas Roschon Johnson had been used almost 50-50, a little bit more back in week 3 because of the passing game upside. Against the Commanders, which way would you play it? I want to rank Herbert higher. We like Herbert on this show. We spent the entire offseason talking about the fact that I brought up that every game he had 10-plus carries, he had 50-plus yards and had multiple games of 100-plus yards on the ground. And we saw how good that offense clicked. And I don't think it was just Herbert. Like, Justin Fields played great, and it was a great matchup. Just play everybody against the Broncos, which we're going to get to in a minute. But that being said, like, Herbert at 25, is that too? Like, Herbert's one spot behind play everybody against the Broncos, Breece Hall. Raheem Mostert, second piece now of Achane. Like, he's not the lead. Like, immediately, like, and we might get Jeff Wilson back. Ramondre Stevenson split. Miles Sanders, who wasn't healthy 100% last. We have to sit here and try to guess what the game's going to be like for the Bears. So do you think Herbert should be higher or lower? Or do you think that's fair because it's kind of splitting the risk?
I think it's fair. I would play him over Breece. I know it's the Broncos, but he's just shown me way more than Breece at this point. I mean, it's obviously we like Breece Hall as a player, but I'm still a little hesitant.
The Broncos, he could go 5 for 100.
Why is Broncos defense so bad? Like, why are they're so awful? It's completely flipped from last year. Like, the offense
it's early Sean Payton. It's early back with this. Like, maybe he's rejiggering things on the defense, and now like this is early Sean Payton for the Saints, where the defense just is trash, and we love it.
Last year they only needed to score
2 or 3 years. It's going to click.
17 points a game to start the season, they would have been 8-0, and they couldn't even do that. I believe they were like 1-7, and now they can't stop anybody. Like you just said, Justin Fields looked great, and sure, like let's give credit to Justin Fields in the offense. DJ Moore was getting involved early and often, a couple nice catches from him, but this offense in Chicago has been pathetic, to start the season. And they just kind of made it happen against the Broncos. It was kind of surprising. It just goes to show, I guess, how bad this Denver defense is. We'll see if Zach Wilson can do it. But Hall, 44% of the snaps, still not getting enough touches for my liking. And with Khalil Herbert, I think that was pretty telling, Jake, because I wasn't sold that he was just going to be a back where he would just play from behind. When they were playing from behind, he'd be on the field, he'd be catching balls, but that was clearly the case. 78% of the snaps for Herbert and 22% for Roschon Johnson. So I like where you have Herbert. I would, like I said, I'd have him ahead of Hall, but everybody else ahead of him, I think is fine, right? Ramondre, I think that was just an outlier thing with Zeke. I think at times Zeke maybe they'll ride the hot hand, but I still think Ramondre is definitely the lead there, and the guy to play is like a low end RB2, but Herbert's fine. I think Washington's not the best spot, but I think he's going to be the lead, and it's like a touchdown spread. I don't think Washington's going to blow them out. I don't think at any point the Commanders are going to be up 3 scores. We're going to see Roschon in the fourth quarter. That's just my feeling on the game.
Well, if this wonderful site that I'm trying to click on right now would just update so I can check to see exactly what the passing snaps were for week 4, specifically for the passing down work between Roschon. So
I didn't see a whole lot of Roschon out there at all, man. Like I saw a lot of Khalil Herbert, and he was looking good early and often, and I think that was part of it.
I'm getting mad at this site because it's like my car. So like my Tucson, every once in a blue moon, I'll get into it. I haven't driven for a couple of days and it just like resets all the settings to back to default. I'm like, why? What did you do to me? Like, that's like, seriously. Khalil Herbert, there you go. It finally pulled up this site. So percentage of snaps, as you mentioned, was 78.6, and then passing was 56% to 67%. So Roschon Johnson, just passing downs. So still out there a little bit more, but he was out there over 50%, so a decent amount at the time.
People will drop Roschon, and I still think that's a mistake. You don't need to start him. We've never said to start him. We just said like he is trending up. I know people are all over him about Roschon Johnson. Like I think I tweeted out that he was trending up, and somebody must have bookmarked the tweet from 3 weeks ago, and they were like, "Yeah, great game, Roschon." It's like, man, people are just like they just are haters in life. I still think he's a good back to hold. Deontay Foreman is not touching the field, so it's a 2-man show at the moment. But Khalil Herbert is. I think
we knew that was coming.
Respectably.
Yeah, that was okay. So in front of him, let's talk about the Ramondre Stevenson situation. So look this up, and the funny thing is when I mentioned the Stevenson touch share versus Zeke's touch share, and then I mentioned it's when they are down by 7+, it's like 70. Really, you know what? If you go to the Athletic, and you can check it out, but I'll just give you the numbers here live on this show. Let me go back up to the Patriots game. So Patriots, here you go. Ramondre Stevenson RB touch percentage down by 7 or more, 76% or 70.6%, almost 71%. When tied or losing, it's 68, still really high. When down or leading by 6, 66, still really high. It's gone down 2 percentage points, 2 percentage points. When leading by 7+, it's 52. Now everybody's like, Patriots leading by 7+. It was almost the majority of the game against the Jets. And again, that's a very small sample because it's 2/3 of a game of 4 games. But the point being is that's when we saw the Zeke concern. So in this week's game for the Patriots against the Saints, who have a tough defense, is this a game where you could see them holding or being close to a lead, and we have to worry about Stevenson having a down game? Or do you think this is a buy low opportunity because people are in full on panic? Like I've seen people like, should I trade Stevenson for blank? And it's like a wide receiver 3, and I'm like, dude, like let's not go that far.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would be into buying Stevenson. I don't feel like there's a lot of running backs out there that I feel comfortable buying low on. Like it's just so much mediocre play out there. But Stevenson's one of those guys that I would. I just feel like he has more to offer at this point than Zeke. Zeke has had a couple games, like week 1, I believe, was an outlier when he had all those catches. I think Stevenson was ill and not feeling 100%. And that was a game where they were actually in contention the whole time against Philly. This one here against the Saints, I don't love the matchup. I don't think that Zeke is going to be able to run between the tackles, and Stevenson may not be able to either. Can Mac Jones move the ball? This is a game that I just feel is going to be...
You mean Bailey Zappi?
Zappy. Belichick, man, he's so jokes. Like, you see the press conference when they asked about Mac Jones. He's like, I just felt like it was a time. There's no point of him being in the game. Why'd you take him out 3 minutes? There's no point of him being in the game. Is he a starter the next week? I said, there's no point of him being in the game, so I took him out. Well, can we expect to see Mac Jones as a starter next week? I just told you there was no point of him being. It's like he won't
just
give
answer.
anything.
I know. Just answer the damn question.
I think Mac Jones is the starter, but the leash is short. The Saints D is pretty good, and I could see him struggling again. So this is like a 14-13 type grind game with not a lot of offense. I don't know. Like, I definitely am team Stevenson over Zeke, even though the snap counts are like 60-40. It's
well. Then let me ask you this: I have buy lows in the article. It's something that Pat brought up when I was talking about on a shit show. Same thing. I just actually put a disclaimer now in the buy lows and sell highs. Buy low and sell high doesn't mean you have to go buy at any cost, and sell high doesn't mean get them the hell off the team, because that's what people like that. I think that's part of the thing. People just see buys and sells, and they're like, oh, I got to get rid of them, and it's going to be too late. Like Devon Achane, sell high, no question about it. If you get RB1 value. If you don't sell high. Like, that's not selling high. Like, you're getting rid of potential return risk. So here's my three buy lows at running back. Would you like Stevenson more than any of these three, or just one of them? I don't know. We'll find out. Stevenson versus I didn't mention Stevenson. The other three I mentioned Aaron Jones, because he came back, didn't look good last week, but nothing really looked good in that first half in general. They had 20 yards at offense at halftime, if people don't remember. Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs, Breece Hall. Who would you most want to buy low on? Is it Jacobs? Is the obvious answer Jacobs?
It may be, but I have this weird feeling that things are just going to go sour in a hurry in Las Vegas, like completely sour, to the point where they're a 2 or 3 win team by week 13 or 14. Jacobs is dealing with an injury, and he's just like, you know what? Screw you guys.
What if Jacobs gets traded for like a 4th?
What? Oh my goodness!
5th.
It's things that I could see happening. Josh McDaniels has completely lost the room. I fully believe that. I don't think anybody is happy with what's going on in Las Vegas. There's been
here's an interesting one. Sorry to cut you off.
No,
but somebody threw out like Jacobs and Barkley as potential new locations because both these teams are falling apart. And Giants probably are going to be a little bit more patient than the situation with the Raiders. But Jacobs and Barkley, they threw out the Buccaneers because the Buccaneers have a huge salary cap cushion, and they could afford to sign either one of them to like a 10-year. We're probably facing is like 10 is going to be the max at this point, 10 per year. But because of how much room the cap has for the Buccaneers, or the Buccaneers have as in the cap, if I would order those words correctly, they could sign either one of them. They could trade a 4th, a 3rd, and then sign them to a 4-year, $40 million deal.
I could see it. Bucks are a lot better than people think. Defense is good, right? I mean, they're.
Do you want to know a crazy stat?
I think White is fine though, but he's gone up against some tough defense.
Yeah, but he's fine. That's the problem. He's fine. He's not them.
I guess Jacobs would put them over the top. I just feel like, quickly before you go to the next step, I probably would buy Jacobs, but I am into Aaron Jones because A.J. Dillon is offering absolutely nothing to the Packers. Nothing. He looks pathetic again, a 2nd year in a row, so he can't move the ball. Breece Hall, it would be cheap. I would buy him for cheap. But my biggest thing here is, like, if you can afford it and you have big leagues, big benches, Zamir White, just stash him because he could be just the guy.
Oh yeah, this is the same like Dowdle before he got hurt last week, but like all these clear next man up type of situations. Always
I feel like Jacobs could be benched or could be scratched.
Oh yeah, sure. Tajay Spears, like. But I'm just saying, like, the same term. Like, you can't use Tajay Spears, but if anything were to happen, I know he's getting sprinkled in, but same thing for Tank Bigsby. Yeah, it's frustrating when he takes the goal line carry. You're not starting Bigsby, but if anything, anything were to happen, I threw this out yesterday on Twitter. Twitter, should we just call it X at this point? What is the transition going to happen when everybody just starts finally calling it X? I don't know if it's ever going to happen. So here's post on X instead of tweet on Twitter. Baker Mayfield. Here's his QB ranks for quarterbacks when under pressure. This is all quarterbacks in the NFL this season when under pressure. Here's where he ranks. Completion percentage, 2nd. Yards per attempt, 1st. Yards per completion, 9th. Touchdown per attempt, 5th. and passer rating first. Baker Mayfield is tearing it up when under pressure this year. This is insane.
Which is the complete opposite of his entire career. He had always folded under pressure and couldn't make the throws. It's a new Baker, man. I think I said this on the Sirius show, and I was wrong about him being okay against the Eagles because he was on my the first couple of weeks. I'm like, man, Baker's playing really good. He's making those anticipation throws. He's getting it out quick. He's leaning on some of his weapons. He's avoiding pressure, like some of the statistics that we had over the first 2 weeks. He avoided 9 sacks, like with his legs. And that's not something that I had really ever seen from him when he was in the NFL. But yeah, he's making things happen. He wasn't good against the Eagles and when they were dialing up some pressure, but he made some really nice throws last week. They're on a bye this week, so Mike Evans hopefully is okay. Another hamstring injury for him. But yeah, Baker's been really impressive, man. He's making some things happen. The Bucs are, I don't want to say they're legit, but yeah, like they're a team that's going to be, if it's not the division. My
biggest concern wasn't even the offense. Look, Baker Mayfield's not Tom Brady, but this is the comparison I made to Ben Roethlisberger at the end of his career. Like the end of the career version of these quarterbacks is still better than what the new quarterback is. Like I would still take end of career Tom Brady over Baker Mayfield, but what the end of the career Tom Brady was and is last year isn't as stark as a drop-off to Baker Mayfield as it would have been 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
So was downgrading the passing game and the running back, the Rachaad White situation, a little too much. But the concern was still, as an NFL, like not a fantasy perspective, is that still that defense was going to be a problem. Like because you're looking up and down the roster before the season starts and you're like, man, they have like 2 guys that we like say like legit potential, like I don't know if I call them Pro Bowl level, but I think that was the big concern.
Between him and Brady is honestly like him avoiding some of these sacks. Like Brady was a statue. That's it. Like Brady's awesome, but when there's pressure in his face,
he now has a statue.
Yeah, sure. Should have a few of them. Yeah, he's avoiding the pressure at the moment. So
would you put a statue outside Tampa Bay for Brady? I mean, got him a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I would. Why not? I'm into celebrating.
Just have like
championships,
have like 3 Tom Bradys around the country.
Sure. I mean, what they did,
Hall of Fame, New England, Tampa Bay, just
still pretty cool. Like to come in year 1 and get it done right away and win a championship. Like that's pretty badass. I know Rodgers was trying to do something like that, but yeah, I'd give him a statue.
Who now is trying to come back by the end of the year? Before the end of the year? Hold on to those Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall shares just for the end of the season for your playoffs.
By the time he's ready to go.
Oh yeah, so your fantasy team, you'll be playing in this will be Cam Akers last year. Constellation bracket championships everywhere.
Yeah.
Devon Achane, how high is? I'll tell you. I'll phrase it a different way. You have to say you rank him higher or lower. You can't pick where I put him. Either push him higher or push him lower. And I feel like the push him lower is the easy answer, but I want to see. Maybe not. Devon Achane at 10. Sandwiched between Brian Robinson and Travis Etienne. Does he need to go higher or does he need to go lower? You can't say that looks good. You got to say higher or lower.
I'll say higher. I'll say like there's
then
one.
Who?
Probably Mixon.
Is Mixon too high? I guess Arizona.
I know. Arizona's competitive.
I know, but he's the bell cow of bell cows this year. He's actually leading the league right now over Christian McCaffrey because Christian McCaffrey's come off the field because they've just been destroying people. Joe Mixon now leads the league in RB touch percentage.
Yeah, and I would expect that to continue. My goodness, Joe Burrow and this Bengals team. I mean, if you want to just look at Burrow.
Let's talk about that.
Burrow, he ranks like 30th or 32nd with like the worst quarterbacks in the NFL in terms of every single statistic. Like, what is happening?
The calf isn't right. The calf is not right. Look, I give Orlovsky a lot of hate sometimes because I don't always agree with Orlovsky. I'll give him a hell of a lot of credit yesterday because he broke down this film and showed the 4 or 5 highlights that he showed where Daniel Jones was the problem, not the offensive line. Because people were talking about it wasn't all the Giants' offensive line that was the problem because they've been mixing people in. They have more injuries. Schwartz got hurt. Mitchell Schwartz got hurt on that. Can we? Why did we make the tush push legal? Like, I'm so tired of it already. Like, can we stop? Like, I mean, maybe that's the Notre Dame fan of me being still ticked off about the Bush push, but can we stop with this? Like they're just like it's now like a freaking formation and they like sit there and anyway, sorry, I'm gonna get sidebar on that.
It's the biggest lock in sports, the tush push.
Like, unless you're the Giants and then you get stopped. That's the only team that
Eagles.
only team that can't pull off the damn tush push is somebody with a mobile quarterback, and you can't pull it anyway. And it wasn't even that bad of a matchup to do it in. Anyway, Joe Burrow, look why I was referencing Orlovsky, because he said something the week before. And when it was the one that he overthrew Jamar Chase, you were going right to left on your screen. Jamar Chase was on the left side of the field. It was deep, and he overthrew him by like 5-10 yards. And Orlovsky was like, yeah, they haven't been able to practice that much together. And I said, no. Like, Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow don't need to practice together. They could not practice the entire season, roll out week 17. If Joe Burrow's 100%. The calf is the issue. The calf is making him float passes. He's got a terrible ADOT. It's the worst of his career. He's got his highest off-target percentage of his career. It is out there. His off-target percentage of throws is in line with two names you don't want to be in line with: Justin Fields and Zach Wilson. You do not want to be in that conversation of off-target throws. So all that being said, Joe Burrow, I said, let's stop right here. I have Joe Burrow at 19. I don't want to start Daniel Jones. He looks miserable, even without Saquon Barkley. But I have Daniel Jones in front of him. I have Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, Brock Purdy, Josh Dobbs at 14, who, by the way, Josh Dobbs,
good.
Since week one, do you know what quarterback he is since week one? Week one was miserable. Let's acknowledge week one was god-awful. Just like,
probably 6 or 7.
Fifth.
Like, he's the top 10 quarterback.
He's fifth. He's fifth in the past 3 games.
He's been running too. Michael Wilson, your boy, our guy. He's been good. Seen people spending fab on him. Nice to see. We have shares of him, and it's back-to-back weeks. He's caught basically everything thrown his way too. So Dobbs been pretty accurate, and Hollywood Brown's having some moments. Arizona's been competitive. Cincinnati's only 2.5-point favorites here against this Arizona team that I thought would be the worst team ever.
Arizona and the Texans, they are blowing their double shot chance at Caleb Williams.
Oh man, CJ Stroud looks phenomenal. Burrow, the ranking is absolutely fair. Would you go further? Garoppolo against the Packers, which, by the way, I want to bring up. This isn't until Monday night, so we don't usually talk Monday or football, like the Monday Night Football game on the waiver show. But I found this interesting. I was over at FTN, which, by the way, code all in gets you 20% off, and I used the pace tool. Interesting. This is concerning. I was expecting Raiders stink. Packers defense, However, Packers 27th in plays per game, Raiders 28th. Now, Raiders, you could argue part of that is the fact of they never have the ball, but those are concerning numbers in the fact that that's also pace involved in there. 27-28. Maybe we're hitting the under on this one. Maybe this is not going to be the shootout we hope it can be. It's probably another. Yeah, no, I would not say that this game is going to be a shootout. I've noticed that from the Packers. It's kind of what I expected heading into the season, that they would lean on both running backs and just run the ball. And really, they just haven't had either of those running backs. I mean, Aaron Jones had some moments early on, but like I said, A.J. Dillon hasn't been great. I think we'll see a little bit more Christian Watson, but yeah.
So I brought that up. Would you start Garoppolo or Burrow?
I would start Burrow.
What about Dak? Dak, Burrow, Garoppolo.
San Fran. I probably still would go Burrow. I'm a sucker for punishment. I think I would play him against Arizona. And then Dak and Jimmy. I don't know. Jimmy's actually been okay. What I've noticed from Jimmy when he's playing, he's targeting 2 guys, and that's it. It is Myers and it is Javonte. There's no Hunter Henry. There's Renfro. There's no tight end. Jacobs is getting a little bit of look, but I don't want to start any of those guys, to be honest. I mean, but in super flex leagues, I think, if you have the choice, I would lean with Joe Burrow. And then, I may go Jimmy over Dak. The Dallas offense has not been good. Again, some of our tools that we look at and, DVOA offensively, Dallas is not even top 15. They've won some ball games based on their defense, and really that's it. They played your Giants, and the game was over early. Mac Jones gifted them a couple picks. They lost to Arizona, where they moved the ball, but Dak struggled inside the red zone. And now they got San Fran, and San Fran has owned them over the past couple of years. The Niners are completely legit.
Well, then let me ask you this one.
Yikes.
It's the Denver Broncos. Is Zach Wilson, should he be higher? Zach Wilson, was that his best game of his career? It feels like it was.
Did you see this? Did you see the stat? That was the first time ever Mahomes, a quarterback, had more passing yards, more passing touchdowns and completions against Mahomes in a start? Zach Wilson, of all people. That would have been $1 million.
Well, so that's what I was going to say. It wasn't just I think the optics of also facing the Chiefs, but I'm sure the fantasy performances, he's had better games, better scores, but for that, he played against the Chiefs defense, which has been pretty good. Yes. And that looked like the most competent And that's what I would say, like, not fantasy points wise, like the most comfortable, competent, not scared Zach Wilson we had seen yet. Is that enough to make you start Zach Wilson? Don't say Superflex. Don't say like my guy's on a bye. Like, is 22 too low for Zach? Like, Zach Wilson versus Dak against San Francisco. Garoppolo, which is just kind of a floor guy. Joe Burrow gets Arizona. Like, should Zach Wilson be higher? Like, we just saw what Justin Fields did. He got right.
Yeah,
he got right.
I know. I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's fair. You know, you want to shoot for upside, and even though Dak and Burrow doesn't look right, I would kick myself, man, if I played Zach Wilson and he just like turned into a pumpkin again, and then
okay, I'll give you one more then.
One thing about Burrow, like you're definitely right about the calf, but they can't protect him, man. They're just like teams are just teeing off.
Well, but that's the thing. They know the 0.3 rushes and scrambles per game. He normally averages close to 2.
He's always been.
And I know this doesn't sound like I don't like this. That's not a giant number. But when you take away the fear of escapability, it's just that you can take different paths to the quarterback that you wouldn't normally. Like, you might not swing as wide. What does that mean? You get to the quarterback quicker. You know, you might go inside on your technique when you might normally try to stay outside to prevent Joe Burrow, or vice versa. Like, you take it outside so he doesn't run up the middle. Like, it's not like he's Daniel Jones, but you take away a threat. And yeah, I think that's part of it too. So let me go back up this. Today, we're playing Saquon Barkley if he plays. There's no question about it. Like, who are you benching Saquon Barkley for? Like right. Whatever.
Yeah.
But let's say there is no Saquon Barkley. The true person who deserves nobody's going to pay a running back $40 million a year. I'm just saying, right now, the $40 million should be going to Saquon Barkley, and the $10 million should go to Daniel Jones. Like, let's just be honest at how this team looks without Saquon Barkley. And I said this was going to happen. I hate the victory lap, and this is coming from somebody that, like, I've joked a lot about Daniel Jones because I'm a Giants fan. But jokes aside, I do feel bad for him as a human. Like, I even tweeted that on Monday night. Legitimately, like, watching him post game, asking, he said he has to do better, and some people can't. Like, everybody can't be Patrick Mahomes. Like, even Patrick Mahomes has an off game. But I genuinely feel at this point for Daniel Jones, because it's kind of the Baker Mayfield thing, where all that expectation, all the hype, all the excitement, his came with a contract, and Daniel Jones, that being, or Daniel just Brian Dable for Daniel Jones. But no Saquon Barkley. Would you start Daniel Jones or Zach Wilson? I think it's a legitimate conversation to have.
No, it is. It is a legitimate conversation to have. I probably would lean with Daniel Jones just because of what he can do with his legs. I don't think it's fully on him. I get it. Like, he's not worth the money. I was always in your camp with that, but they just can't protect him, man. And it's just like 8 or 9 sacks a game.
Orlovsky should. That's what I'm saying. You take away 4 sacks that were on him. Those were 100%
some of them
on him.
are.
Now, granted, that's still 7 sacks. But
no time to throw. I don't.
4 points and 8.7 the last 2 games. 4 and 8.7. You would still start him over Zach Wilson with no Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. I mean, sure. I just 11-point dogs. I would expect him to run a touch. Miami's not. The pass rush isn't the same, but probably still going to get sacked 4 or 5 times. I don't think that there's anybody in the Giants that you could start. Like, even Darren Waller, like Wan'Dale Robinson, sure. Like a 16
Wan'Dale Robinson
league.
Well, you might have buys. There's 14 buys. There's actually some. There's a decent
5
chunk
yards.
of wide receivers on buy this week.
Oh yeah, there's some good ones. But what are we doing here with this? Until Saquon is back, I mean, the offense, even Saquon's not going to be able to help that much. Like, he will, but he can only do so much.
This is a waiver. This isn't a waiver show, but let me ask you a question. I've seen a lot. I've seen like a ton of it. People are still asking about Kyle Pitts. If you didn't drop him 2 weeks ago, I don't even know what you're waiting for at this point. I know as soon as
better than him.
I know people are going to drop him, then he's going to have that 80 yards and a touchdown game, and everybody's going to be like, "Oh, I can't believe I dropped." It doesn't matter.
Time to sell. Yeah.
Yes, but people are like, should I drop Darren Waller? And here are the 2 names that I've seen a lot. Is we've now moved on from Laporta. Why? Because Laporta is now one of the top 6. Like, there are 6 tight ends. I know. Like, 6, I think there's 6. There's Kelsey, Hawkinson, Andrews, Laporta, Evan Ingram, and Kittle? I don't even know if you can say Kittle at this point. Maybe there's only 5.
I'd put him in the top 6. I would go like the rest of the way. I would go Kelsey,
no, I mean, like,
Hawkinson,
you never
Andrews,
think about
Laporta,
sitting them ever.
Ingram. Yeah. I wouldn't sit Kittle. I think maybe the other one at this point.
Cole Kmet's been better than him.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say.
Point is Ferguson.
Would you drop Waller and would you start Ferguson over Waller at this point? I have Ferguson in front of Waller this week.
Yeah, I would. Honestly, I know somebody
the
said this
ceiling is still with
Streets.
Waller though.
It is, and that's what someone said yesterday on Mean Streets is that it's gotten to the point where you know what the ceiling is for Waller. It's the tight end position that you just roll him out every week, and it's just like whatever. Hopefully if he finishes with 8 or 9 points, he finishes as a top 10 tight end. But watching this Giants offense and seeing the offensive line, it's just there's no point in playing this guy. There really isn't. Ferguson is getting 6 or 7 targets a game. They're protecting Dak. It's not Brennan Cooks who's the number 2. Like, I think Gallup is passing him like slowly. I would actually make the switch for Cooks and Gallup. I would, yeah. I think
Cooks is still in front of him. It's just they haven't had the pass.
He's playing a lot of snaps.
Three blowouts and not a lot of passing.
Yeah, I that's part of it, I suppose. But I see Gallup trending up. I see Dak kind of leaning on him. But the point here is Ferguson is getting those. He's kind of playing that Dalton Schultz role, right? He's getting a ton of targets. Like I think it's like back-to-back weeks of 7+ in around 7. So I think where you have Waller, I mean, I may lean Kmet over him. You're just ranking him based on upside. If you could get a Cole Kmet, I see some questions like Cole Kmet. Like I would get Cole Kmet.
Well, here's one.
I would make that swap.
I'm big on Logan Thomas. As long as he's healthy, I'm big on Logan Thomas. Would you go Logan Thomas if it was you? It's tight end. Again, let's talk about Kelsey, Hawkinson, Laporta, Andrews, Engram. You can leave Kittle there. You start with Ferguson. You can go all the way down to Tyler Conklin because he's get to face Denver. Like any of them. I mean, we're talking about every single week we have tight ends that are 0.0% rostered on Yahoo, which is a little bit more casual. Like there's at least like Romeo Dobbs is still at 50-something%, but he's only 30% on ESPN. Like at least Yahoo's pretty active on the percentage. I'm talking about multiple tight ends at 0% rostered. So like I don't get too hung up on it. Like would you just let me put it this way: if you had to face one going forward
on these rankings,
John Smith's even further down. He's down at 23.
He probably should be ahead of Kyle Pitts. Let's be honest.
I have Kylan Granson. He's been out there the most of the Colts.
I mean, the big question is Goddard too. Like Goddard should be in the Waller conversation too. Like it's panic mode. Like
I have Goddard at 13. Is that too low? Yeah. Or should it be lower? Is he in the Pitts conversation?
He may be. I think I would play Higbee over him. Like again, Eagles and tight ends. Like Higbee, I would play over.
Okay, I have Higbee ranked.
Really good.
Let's talk about the two things. So here's why, and we're getting the breaking news right now. The 21-day window is officially open as we're doing this show for the Colts and Jonathan Taylor. He's healthy. He's ready. Like this is happening. Does he play this week is a whole other question. Pause on that because I want to talk about Higbee because you brought it up. I have Higbee there because I have Kupp in my rankings because I know I go the other direction. I have Musgrave out because we never see concussions first week back. I know a lot of people are like, where's Musgrave? Well, because it's a concussion. Granted, it was Thursday, so maybe he has a good chance, but concussions, nobody comes back the first week. Maybe 10-day window gives him the benefit. Whatever, that being said. Outside of that, I put injuries, like I have Javonte Williams in. I have Cooper Kupp in. I have Jonathan Taylor in. I have Saquon Barkley in. Like those kind of things. Cooper Kupp is in. I would agree with you on Higbee if Kupp is out. But because I have Kupp in, I think he's going to take a ding just like Tutu Atwell will. And that's why I have Higbee at 14 behind Dallas Goedert because I have Kupp playing. So let's talk about Kupp. You know, if Kupp plays, Kupp plays. Like I have Kupp at 10. Like, does it really matter? You're playing him no matter what. But here's the question:
Kupp would play 40% of the snaps, 35% of the snaps.
I'd still play him.
Yes,
he'd still be top 20 wide receiver, even 40%. But how far down does Nacua go? So I have Nacua at 17 against your Eagles with Kupp. You're still playing him. But is that fair? Or should he be, has he been given the credit that he should be higher? And maybe he should be in the conversation of a Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown where he's still a fringe wide receiver 1? Or is Coop, think that. You do? You do?
Yeah, I think it's like almost like back when we were ranking Kupp and Woods. As their Kupp was always ahead of him, the higher ceiling, and then Woods was just kind of like a touch behind him.
Cooks and Woods and Cooks and
yeah, Kupp, I think like Tutu is the guy that's gonna be hurt the most. I mean, Puka is just too damn good. He's just gonna be on the field like all the time and still getting looks. So I think it's fair. I keep getting this question, and I don't know if they're trolling me because 2 weeks ago it was like Devontae versus Nacua. And I said I still liked Devontae. and I still get the question from the same guy, and I still keep saying I like Javonte because at some point I do think that Kupp will be full go, and then he's going to be Stafford's guy, and then but it's the same tier. Like he's the number 2, who'd be the number 2 on his team, like Javonte's the number 2 on his team. He's still like a very startable wide receiver. I see Drew in here rank these 3. Like,
whoa, no. Drew has your number. What are you doing, Drew? We love you, Drew, but what are you doing? I know you guys have each other's
He doesn't
number.
have your number. He wants to know from you. But like,
okay, well, check the link.
Conversation.
Get a subscription, Drew.
That check the link.
I love Drew's a friend of ours, so that's why we're doing this.
That's the conversation, right? Like with those, and that's in the order that I like. Like Nacua, no matter what, Cooper Kupp is back. Nacua is still, I think, a very high-end wide receiver too. Like I would not worry about
Nacua over Garrett Wilson against Denver.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Nacua over Nico Collins.
Yeah.
Nacua over Deebo Samuel, assuming 100%. He was a decoy. That pissed me off.
He was a decoy. Yeah, I know that. Man, just make
again. Do not believe 12 o'clock news, 12:30 news on a Sunday. It's all a bunch of.
You're playing Arizona. Like just make him inactive.
It's a whole bunch of. That was an airy one.
I probably would go Deebo. Maybe. You know what? I'm still going Puka.
Okay.
I expect
Here's
Kupp
one more.
to be limited.
Here's a big one. I think this one's a legitimate conversation. Jaylen Waddle's numbers. We talked about him on Monday's show for the Worry Report. All his metrics, numbers, everything's like pretty much in line with what he normally does. And actually, some of his numbers are up in certain areas. But the one thing that is most down and the most concerning is his target share is not where it had been in past seasons. Does that get right? This is a 2-part question. Would you buy low in Jaylen Waddle? Does this get right? And this is just how things have worked out the first few weeks. Or is Tua spreading around too much and that's just going to continue and Tyreek Hill is the only constant there? And then the second part is, would you go Waddle or Nacua?
I would go Nacua.
Waddle gets the Giants.
I know. I would go Nacua, but yes, I do believe Waddle's a good buy low candidate. I think we've been saying that for a couple weeks. It hasn't worked out yet. But I also don't think he was 100% to start the season. And yeah, they're spreading it around, right? That will continue. But Waddle still has that high ceiling. This offense is still legit. Like, get spanked in Buffalo by a better team. That's it, man. The Bills are better. Bills are much better defensively. Waddle will come around.
Are you buying into that stat, by the way? That everybody that's faced Denver has gone off and then faced the Bills the next week and lost? Are you buying into that?
I didn't see that. I didn't know.
Oh, you didn't know that? Like so far, like
no.
That's what I don't know if the NFL did that on purpose, but they've all the teams that have faced. I don't know if it's all 4 weeks or 3 of the last 4 weeks or whatever, but they've spanked the Broncos and then the very next week have played the Bills and
got
lost.
A reality check. Yeah.
I
mean, the Bills are that good, right? They're defensively. I think they may be the best in the league, but Waddle's a buy low candidate. He's a wide receiver too. Don't worry about him. Like,
okay. Let's talk some worries before we get out of here.
Okay.
Miles Sanders, worry. Before last week, put this in the stats too. Before last week, it was 72% Sanders, 38% for Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah.
I don't think Sanders. You watched that game. I don't think Sanders or Bryce Young were 100%. So no, you're right? Okay. Like, you're okay with Miles Sanders. Yeah. You're okay. Miles Sanders still being an RB2.
Yeah. Well, we said on the series show, like he's another game or two, and he's gonna pass what he did through the air last year. With the targets and receptions. I don't think he was 100%. He was limited all week. He was a game time decision. There may be times where they ride the hot hand with Chuba, but I'm not worried about Miles. He's still the lead there.
Jonathan Taylor, do you immediately put him? I told you we would come back to him. Do you immediately put him in your lineup? I do. If he's on the Colts,
play, man.
I know.
Well, like that's he's just not going to play the rest of the year. Like you may be. I should have took Zach Moss from you. I should have did it because it does sound like the Colts are, or he's not going to play at all, which it doesn't help him at all.
I mean, they opened the window. They opened the window.
Right.
So
and he's practicing, but if he plays, yes, I'm not expecting a peak Jonathan Taylor performance. It is against
he's facing the Titans.
It's like sub.
But it's Jonathan Taylor's. Like Zach Moss is Zach Moss. It's not like they, found a new great top 10 running. Like, put it this way, this would be like, let's say Antonio Gibson was like doing this entire time, and Brian Robinson, and now Gibson was coming back in week 5 and had been the lead. Like that's when we're like, okay, Brian Robinson, you were on a similar level. Potentially, Brian Robinson's maybe even better than you. You don't have a job to come back to. This is not that. Zach Moss is not even on the same stratosphere level as Jonathan Taylor. I have Jonathan Taylor with the thought, like, again, this is where I would rank him if he plays. I go Pacheco at 14, which, by the way, holy crap, Pacheco, uptick, and he's 100%. Like, he is the guy. So I have him at 14. James Conner against Cincinnati, 15. Alvin Kamara, which all the receptions in the world and no yards, at 16. Then Jonathan Taylor, then Aaron Jones against Las Vegas. Are you okay with that rank? They want to nitpick, but do you think it's fair to have him inside the top 20?
Yeah, it's a low end RB2. Like, if I'm nitpicking guys, and maybe go James Cook or Madison over him. But it's Jonathan Taylor. I just, I don't know. Again, I'm only speculating. I don't know if this guy plays. I would sell high on Jonathan Taylor before he even touches the field, or maybe he won't even touch the field.
Cam, a few more we hammer out before we get done with this show. Cam Akers was out there for essentially 2 drives for his 7 touches. The rest was all Alexander Madison. But that was his first game action. Cam Akers looked good on his touches. He looked better than he did with his 22 touches in week 1. But do you still believe it's Madison's backfield? Because I do. I think all that did was that if Madison has 2 stinkers, or maybe he comes out and fumbles twice and can't get anything going, 1 game, but I still think it's Madison's job unless he falls.
I agree. Yep, I agree.
Okay. Fails?
It's just kind of like insurance. I think it may have been more. Yeah, I think this may have been more on like Ty Chandler's just not good enough to be the number 2 there, and Akers is a good fallback option in case Madison
I agree.
continues to struggle with efficiency and dropping the ball, but he's still the lead there.
So something we had warned about too, and this is a perfect example. We said sell high, but for what? And that was relative, and people did not. I saw the comments coming. He's a rookie. He's in a great situation. It's only going to get better for Jordan Addison. Look, I've got stuff wrong. Jahan Dotson. Sam Howell hates Jahan Dotson. I don't know if he dated his girlfriend or something, and we don't know about it. He hates the dude. I finally got the touchdown because nobody. Curtis Samuel was banged up at that point. He had nobody left to go to. It's finally.
Terry. He was just wide open in the end zone. Hey, Sam, remember me? Had 7 touchdowns last year as a rookie. I'm
pretty sure. I don't go back and watch that. I'm pretty sure it's Sam saw him and was like, can I find somebody else? And it kind of came back to him.
Why does he hate Dotson?
I don't know.
What's going on?
I don't know.
It's bothering me.
That being said, Jordan Addison finally was the victim of what we had been saying. He's only out there in 3 wide receiver sets in a game where they weren't things were not working for the Vikings last week in the passing game. Kirk Cousins was playing like it was prime time. It was not good. And Jordan Addison had 1 target for a big fat 0. Would you bench him? Or do you think you go right back to Jordan Addison and what he should have been this entire conversation, this entire time, as a fringe wide receiver 3, and people overreacted to the touchdowns?
Yeah, they overreacted, and if you go back and look at some of the touchdowns, these plays happen. You can't take them away. Here you say that all the time. Well, if he didn't have that big run, it happened. Yeah. There was busted coverage on both of those plays. Week 1, busted coverage over the top, wide open. Kirk Cousins hit him. Week 2, busted coverage. Kirk Cousins hit him over the top as well. Osborne is still playing over him. We know JJ's the 1. Hawkinson's the 2. But in this spot against Kansas City, I think he's worthy of a flex play. And, if people are recency biased, I would buy. But I just view him the rest of the way as a wide receiver 3 at best, unless something happened. Because you're right. He's not on the field all the time. It is a pass-happy offense. It's near the top 2 or 3 in terms of pass percentage plays. Them in Houston, they're just chucking the ball nonstop. But I'm looking at your rankings. I wanted to see where you had Michael Wilson. You have him ahead of him. I like that.
Tyler we're going to talk about him. There's 2 more before we get out of here. He's 1.
Yeah, these are guys that I would have over him. And Rashee Rice isn't. Pour one out for a guy Sky Moore, I guess, because Rashee Rice is not you could trust a Kansas City wide receiver, but
you can't.
It does seem like that's the guy at the moment.
I'll take something that Pat Mayo called way back in week 2, I think it was. If you want to take a random bet or DFS and you want to take on the biggest I don't know, there's a lot of sites that don't even give a prop on Justin Watson, but Justin Watson's averaging 70 yards per target. It's ridiculous.
He's out there all the time too.
He just throws bombs to Watson and it's just go. He basically runs the backfield playground routes. Just go, and I'm just gonna heave it up to you. He might get a catch, he might not, but it's it's better odds than most. All right, so you
today.
Did you? Yeah. That's painful. So you brought up 2. Those were one of the last 2 I want to talk about, and we get out of here. It's would you start these guys? You mentioned Michael Wilson, and my boy. Off season, I have him almost on every single team. Finally paid off on my bench because I hadn't started him yet because he's been running as the 2, and this is what we said the entire time is he's the 2. Moore, like Addison, is the 3. Rondell Moore, but Michael Wilson. over, now this is with Cooper Kupp, Tutu Atwell, Jordan Addison as the 3, Drake London, Rashee Rice, DJ Chark, Jahan Dotson, Jaden Reed, Curtis. Like, is anybody in this list ahead of Michael Wilson for you?
No. Like you said, if there's no Kupp, maybe Tutu, but no, man.
Yeah,
like
I would move up Tutu.
He's been good. He's been really good. And again, we talked about this on this show. We talked about it on Sirius show that it would take time, be patient. I think we mentioned 3 rookies at the end of the draft. And for me, I know it was Wilson, Mingo, and Reed. And it's really Wilson who's taking off from the other 2. Reed was good. He wasn't getting a ton of targets, but he was making some work with that. But Watson's back. But Wilson has caught basically everything thrown his way. 16 targets, 14 grabs, 50. And the first game was his very first game in the NFL. So we can just cross that one out. But 3 for 56 against your Giants, just only 2 catches against Dallas, but still had 86 yards. Caught all 7 of the passes last week against San Fran, a really tough matchup. Found the end zone twice with 76 yards. There's not a lot that Arizona has to offer. Like, we were all getting excited about Zach Ertz and all those targets. Wilson is getting targets. They're going to be playing from behind quite often, and Dobbs is way better than I would expected him to be. And I don't think Kyler is coming back at all, and I don't think people need to worry about that. Like, Dobbs is capable of feeding those 2 guys in Hollywood.
Dobbs is going to. I said he's going to ruin their chances of getting Caleb Williams. He just officially.
Yeah, he may, and he's still.
And they're going to go back to Kyler Murray, because the Caleb Williams you would have to trade Kyler Murray anyway. But so. Here's the last one
on the Falcons. Kyler be a Falcon next year. Bucket.
The NFL. We talked about this on the waiver show because he was out there in a lot of leagues that couldn't, because you couldn't IR this player. The NFL changed their stance on betting. Funny enough, Jameson Williams. If you're Jameson Williams, do you like sue for 2 games? Do you sue like your paycheck for 2 games because you changed it in the middle of a suspension and he still got slapped with 4, even though it's supposed to now be 2? Like, or does it the precedence of the fact that it happened when it was still 6? I don't know. Anyway, Jameson Williams comes back this week. How far would you have to go to start him? I have him down at 65. By the way, just so you know the names that he's alongside of: Sky Moore, Nelson Aguilar, Terrace Marshall, Darius Slayton, KJ Osborne, Trent Irwin, because there's no T. Higgins, way down the list. But I don't think he gets a full compliment, even though he's healthy. And by the way, do you know what his stat line was last year? 1 catch, the 1 touchdown on 9 targets. That was it.
I think he had 2 touches. He may have like an end around or a carry or something like that. If I would bet the under, I know Jameson Williams, you probably shouldn't, but I would bet the under on any prop that Jameson Williams had, probably catches. If I would assume, and Dan Campbell's already said this, but I would assume he's very, very limited. We haven't seen a whole lot from him. Suspension, injury, right? Recovering from some injuries. He's going to be very boom or bust all year. And I still think that when he is fully healthy and we're getting into like week 11 or 12, that he's probably still the number 4 on the team. I think Josh Reynolds would be ahead of him. It's Laporta, we know, and Amon-Ra is the 1. And
I think he'll get past Josh Reynolds, honestly, if the talent wins out.
I don't know. I think there's a higher ceiling, and he's more talented than Reynolds for sure. But he's going to be like Deshaun Jackson early on in his career. It's like 45-yard bomb, touchdown. Next week, nothing. Next week after that, 3 catches for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. But it's week 1. It's first game of the year. They're going to be very.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I'm seeing right now if DraftKings has any props on. Here we go. I pulled it up.
On him?
Team props. Yeah. Then you see game lines. Oh, they don't even. No.
If I'm going to bet anything on Jameson, I would do like a touchdown, because if he will get targeted probably down the field once or twice. Like that will be.
Or like you
those
said,
will be his targets.
Under on receptions.
Yeah,
and if you need more
yards
help,
yards would be a little scary because of that.
I know 1 catch
could go for
blows
50.
That up in your face. Yeah,
but I wouldn't expect him to have like 3 or 4 grabs or anything.
I have a feeling the yards are going to be somewhat low anyway. Like especially, I feel like his yards are going to be like in the 30s. I could see like a 34.5 type of situation, and then 1 catch could destroy that for you. But
you have a high A dot. Yeah.
Hopefully that does destroy for you is helping your lineups, as we are here at Chris Meaney. You can follow him there. Hockey's getting ramped up, which means if you want to make some money in hockey, you follow this man, Chris Meaney, and everything at FTN. And I'm an all-in kid, but you know that, over at The Athletic. And we'll be back on Monday. Good luck in week 5 and stuff.
See you Saturday.